Oh man, I'm late. That last mile was so rough. I'll tell you what, here we are in my beautiful down studio in Lititz. It's a beautiful place to live. It's a beautiful place to paint. I've painted it for over 30 years. I raised my family here. I had good times, had bad times, but this is a wonderful place to come back to. In front you see my house side, and the studio is on the other side. And I'll get into more of that later, but when we first came here, we rented it, and now we own the whole building, so it's a wonderful place to be. We'll see you. I'm going to go inside and change. Hey, welcome to my studio. Why don't you come on in and I'll show you around. Well, this is when you come through the door, this is our hallway. The thing that strikes you most, me anyway, when I first saw it, was the banister. It didn't look like this. This is all transformed. But you can see the decoration on the banister, which my wife did. We did a lot of work here. She saw that it would be good for a home and evidently a studio, but I really didn't. We transformed it. Right to your right side is a mirror. All these things are things that my wife and I love. We go to auctions, antique shows. To tell you the truth, when I first met her, and we've been married, 40 years, I knew nothing about antiques or collectibles or things like that. We threw those away when I was growing up. So we went to antique shows. I found a love. I love history. So these are things, and I'll start putting them out and giving you stories about them. This one right here is a quilt that another artist came in and saw a painting I was working on of, it was a winter scene. A lot of snow. It was very moody. It was light coming through the woods. She fell in love with it. And we found out she was a quilter, so we basically bartered and said, here, tell you what, you take the painting, and when you get time, you can make us a quilt. My wife gave her the colors, and about 2 or 3 months later, we got this beautiful quilt. We hung it, and it's been there ever since. There's pieces behind you that have pieces from some of our favorite collectors with some of my work on top. There's a small water lily in a window box frame that I did, but it just lends itself to this 1860s piece of pie safe. You can see the screening in it. But I use these things to draw. I use them for my sketchbooks. I go through, and I think that type of thing permeates your mind and your heart as you're an artist, because you soak all that up, and then when you draw it, it just becomes part of you. The shaker boxes, these are actually shaker boxes from the shaker community in either Pleasant Hill or Hancock in Pittsfield. But these shaker boxes have been used in many of my paintings. The chests are also things that we really like. You'll see quite a few of those. I don't know if there's anything in them, but they're beautiful to paint, and they make great places to place things on. It creates delights. When COVID hit, we thought we'd go in our backyard and play croquet, so I covered all the legalities about it and how to do it and the rules, and there it sits. So we haven't played it yet. A lot of paintings are spurred on by trips. The one right here is a painting I did not too last year, and we went to Portland, Oregon, and it was one of the deep forests. I fell in love with the trees, with the softness, with the depth of it, which we have deep forests here, but they're different there. They're so tall. So that was a painting from there. We come over here, and behind my cat, Max, you'll see bowls and pots from everywhere. This one I've painted before. This is a bird, one of my birds. I've done wildlife before. There's a still life right here, right on top. I've used that on occasion, either piece or most pieces, but those are pieces that we collect. This piece right here is one of my favorites. That's a redware from another artist, and he does redware, he does bowls, he does all kinds of redware, and I just love his work, and we were fortunate enough to get one of his lamps. The painting on the top is from Mackinac Island in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and that one I did earlier, and it must be one of my wife's favorites because it's never come down, and she's never ever offered it for sale. So we'll go through again, and you can see everywhere there are traditional pieces everywhere. It's not that we don't collect eclectic work, we don't collect anything different, but our main love is history and traditional work. So you'll see traditional things everywhere. I could spend a year just painting my traditional things in my house, but we happen to have been blessed to be able to travel and to go all over. We've been a lot of places in the world, and places like Iceland, and I've been able to get subject matter from all over. So you'll see later on that I painted many things from many places. The last thing I want to say is that the house is just not separated into just studio and house. We live in every part of it. I might paint over there on the red sofa. I might paint here. It depends on where my family is. My wife and I may be talking, and I'll be working on a watercolor, because watercolors are very portable. And this room right here is part of a utility room. Although it's made up very beautifully now, there are times that I have classes here. And the classes start, and they only go 2 times, in the spring and in the fall. So, but they're 2.5 hours long, and we create a community with the people that come in. I have a loyal following of people who take my classes. So this also doubles as my showroom when we have our open house in November, and it's every November, although I don't know what's going to happen this year. But we invite, we put out thousands of mailers so people can see what we're doing, and everything in this room is new. My wife really insists that I do new work for this room. And then on this side we have more panels, and these panels are 2-year-old. She separates them, which drives me nuts sometimes, but she's my muse. And then on the other side, outside on the porch, are older vintage paintings. Not that they're not as good as the other ones, but they're paintings that we've either chosen to keep or they haven't gotten in front of the right collectors. And here we are in the dining and kitchen area. We spend a lot of time here. We eat at 5 o'clock, and we sit here. It's a community room. Some of the paintings on the wall right here, this is my wife's favorite. I've tried to take it off and put other paintings there, and she always notices it. She changes, he puts it right up. I don't fight it. Every once in a while I'll get it up for maybe half a day, but it doesn't happen. And then this one is a recent painting that I just did, and that's just from a restaurant that we went to, and we both take turns discovering things, discovering compositions. I see it all the time. I've seen that from the time I was younger, but we both take turns, and she saw that one and thought that would make a good painting. This is our kitchen. I love this place. I will say that I do not need peace and quiet when I'm painting. A lot of artists need a very quiet solitude to paint. I don't. I can be sitting here. My cat is usually sitting on the edge here when I'm working, so I move this over. He's a good artist cat because he doesn't make untoward comments, and he likes everything I do. So I paint here. I sit here on the stool, prop my work up here. Sometimes there's music on, sometimes there's a nondescript show on, which I don't watch, but it's noise. There's enough peace in my head that I don't really need peace and quiet. The kitchen is over here. I can look outside and see my backyard. The things on the windowsill have been painted many times. That green object there, I've painted the windowsill, the things outside the windowsill. I've painted it at moonrise because I like nocturnes through that window. So the whole house resonates with things that I like to paint. This painting right here is an earlier one that I did. It's called Number 6. We made prints of it, sold out the prints, and my wife again must love this one because it stays there, and the only thing I get to do is clean it. The only things that I actually have strictly is that I must paint. I paint every day. all day. So my schedule is different than my wife's. My wife gets up and works like clockwork. She gets up at a certain time, works all day. I don't think there's any gaps. I have coffee breaks. I'll get up and move around. When I first get up, I got to get a bike ride. Okay. I usually get up, I read the word, and then I stretch, go for my bike ride. I come back, I drink coffee, and then I sit down either here, most of the time now, because they're doing other things in the room, or I go in the other room if there's a bigger piece of work. But I love sitting here and just getting into the painting. This is where I paint, but there's no set hours. Might work from 9, 10 o'clock on till 3:30, 4 o'clock. Then I'll come in the kitchen and help my wife. I'm her sous chef. So I come in and help my wife cook, and then we have dinner. I do dishes. This is the best place for me to think, because I stand at the sink right here, prop my head right there, it's a good place, and I do dishes, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to do the next painting, what the next passage. Not that it's hard, but I think art and I think painting a lot, almost all the time. So that's what I do here. Then I move away, then after that's over, I might go upstairs with my wife, and while she's doing something or doing Sudoku or something like that, I'll sit with my taboret in the front and paint up there until I either get tired or that I get done when I want to get done. That's my style. Unless I'm driven to do a commission that's 24/7 that I need to get done, or deadlines, and that used to happen earlier on because I procrastinated, but I don't procrastinate anymore. My wife keeps me on task, so I don't have that. No, I like getting up and stretching and doing things like that. Artists sit too much anyway, get lead feet. Above you is the gallery sign. There's a great story behind that. After we moved in, we only rented this side. We were rentals, and we only rented this side, and our studio was also contained, so it was very, very tight. After a while, we got our landlord to rent the other side, and we did. So we would run our work out this side and onto the other side, and as we made that a studio. But after a while, we also talked them into letting us cut a door through. My brother-in-law, who's an excellent craftsman, cut the door through. It seems like he did it in a weekend, and now we have an access, easily accessed. So we went to an antiques auction, found the gallery sign, wiped it off. It was in the corner, wiped it off and put it over the top, and it's been there for years, ever since. So that's our gallery. And this is the house side. Leaving the living area, and we're going into the business area. This is where all the business gets done. This works as a warehouse. It works as my library. It has books there. I keep my sketchbooks down here. Down here you see all the work. The reason why it's a warehouse is because in between shows, and let me digress and talk about that, we do outdoor art shows. Those of you who live around here may know the Lititz art show. You may know the Heart of Lancaster show. You may know the Mount Gretna show. You may know the Lititz craft show. We do those shows, and that's how we get our people, our collectors, our mailing lists. That's how we sell our work. So in between, I have to load up my van when I go to the shows, put racks on the top, drive away, do the shows, unload it, and then do the show and then come home. When I come back, I don't leave things in my van. I take them inside the house each time, lay them neatly on the floor. Here there are prints on this side, and there are prints throughout this business area in this studio. Hanging, these are all original work, and as we walk through, these are the most recent works. My wife put those there. We'll talk about those later. Here are prints all throughout. This is a well-lit area, and this is where all my prints are shown and warehoused. And as we need to replenish our prints, we come back. We have here is a staging area. We put bags all across here. We fill the bags. I usually have 4, 5, 6 bags. I have to carry them through that door, lift them in the back of my Suburban, and then put them in neatly so that we travel so they don't get ruined, and then take them out and set them up with a tent and an art show. So we do art shows all over the country. Up and down the East Coast, we've gone as far south as Florida, as far north as New England, not to Maine, but far north as New England, and as far west as St. Louis to do art shows. I love doing them. I meet great people. I've accrued so many wonderful collectors who have allowed me to call myself a painter and a watercolorist, because those people have bought my work. They bought it over and over and over again. They encourage me, and they come to my open house, and I love those people. Okay, let's go through here. This is my books. I refer to them sometimes. Some of my favorite artists. There's Wyeth, there's Homer, there's other watercolor books there. There's just pieces that I use when I'm studying to do a painting. Here is the information area where my wife put this together, and here's information about my classes, my cards. This is very important. This is a Painting a Day blog, which I do. I've been doing Painting a Day for I think 13 or 14 years. And I started it when the market started to sag, and we had to find an adjunct to doing outdoor art shows, so we started doing or following the trend of Painting a Day. And it's where you paint a small 8x10 or a 6x6 painting in one day, and then you load it onto a website, or you load it onto eBay at first, but now our website or a blog, my wife has created a blog, and we write on it, and people get a chance to not bid but buy it. You can buy it, and it's really a nominal fee. It's a great way to start your art collection. We've had many people start their art collections that way. Okay, let's go through here. There's paintings everywhere. All these are my prints. There's older paintings. This is the brains of my business, and this is a business. And I always say we, because my wife, who's very shy about sharing and not wanting to be in the limelight, I will say that the only reason why I'm painting is because of her encouragement, her love, her backing, her family's love and backing, my family. So it's all collaborative, and she does all that. Now you'd think that right now there wouldn't be much to do in the business, but there is. You have to keep your name out. You have to get online. You have to, and I'm probably not using the right words, but you have to be a presence in the art world so that people know you're there. When we start showing again, and we will, this too will end, when we start showing again, we will be able to be in people's minds, and they'll remember us. She does it from right there. She uses the computer. These are all her records. All these paintings above are hers. I can look at them, I can acknowledge that I painted them, but she put these there for a reason. She loves those. This painting right there was done years ago, and it's one of her favorites. It's called Cut Glass, and we've had prints of those. There's one here of my daughter Abby and our dog Kelly when he was still alive, but I paint many things, and then her wall of all our people we love. It's just amazing. We'll go through here. There's more prints on the floor, and this is still the business area. Now you notice on this side are 8x10 prints, which are smaller, and they're in different subjects. Some are Christmas pieces, which each year we do Christmas pieces, and we'll either make a print, although we don't print everything. I've only printed 2 prints a year, basically, because I don't want prints everywhere and warehoused everywhere, and we don't do wholesale our prints, so we have to sell them retail out at shows and things, so we only do 2 prints a year. But these are all 8x10s. They're very inexpensive, $35, and people who are starting, young couples who don't have much room, can get these and start their collection with these prints. They're very fine prints. They're lithographic prints. They're very fine, and they go all the way around the corner. This is still in the business area, but also a showroom. I said my studio is highly utilitarian. We use spaces and they overlap. So these are all areas here and prints that are in this area. The ones on the floor are limited edition prints. I've kept my editions low to 450, and now that I'm over 60, the prints are 200. I only do 200 prints, so it's a very low edition. you can see there's this theme that runs through all the prints. We have a saying that we placard on at our open house that light, the presence of light, changes everything. And it does. And every painting that I do, I use that, and I try to make each painting speak about the light that influences the painting. Each painting has to have some evidence of that light. Now, as I've gotten more and more technically strong, I include texture, I include color, but light is the one thing that is in every painting. So my wife, who picks the prints, knows this and knew it from the beginning. I would have printed everything. Everything and anything. I mean, there would be an elephant on the floor. But she knows that we need a theme throughout, so that our collectors, some of them have more paintings and prints that I would ever think, can keep buying, keep coming back, can hand them off to generations, to their kids, and I'm old enough that their kids are handing off to their younger generations. So it's a beautiful thing. We are very blessed. In here, more original paintings. We hang them everywhere. Here, more original paintings. And the neat thing about being an artist is that if you paint them, you know where they're from. This is the Hancock Shaker Village from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Beautiful place. Every time I go back, I see more and more subject matter. I see more and more things that just make me want to paint. I could have seen this 10 times and I can go back and see something else where the light changes, where there's something happening with the shadows, where the texture changes. This is Storm King in upstate New York. It's a huge, massive sculpture garden in upstate New York. And we have walked it. There's a famous wall there. It's just a place of extreme beauty. Behind you, up on above the threshold there, is an airplane. And that airplane is in honor, almost in honor of my dad. My dad was a Tuskegee Airman. And when I was younger and drawing and painting, I used to do things and paint airplanes, just I guess to please him and make him happy, and because it was a part of me growing up. So that's an old Telegraph that I used to paint airplanes. So that's just some of the older work. Okay, if you want to step through here, this is the work area. This is where I get to come when we're not matting and framing it anymore. Now I'll show you some of the tools that we use. All right, we cut our own mats. Right here, this is a C&H, an old C&H mat cutter, but you know what? It's familiar. It cuts beautiful mats because we've used it so much and we've mastered it, or it's mastered us, I don't know. But this is our mat cutter, which is covered. We cut it on this table. We also cut glass on this table. We get big skids and racks of glass, so we cut that on this table. In order to be able to cut mats, we have to have raw material. So here's the raw material right here. These are all the mats, the acid-free mats that we use for originals. Barrier paper to put behind the prints, and mats for the prints right here. Paper to cover, backing paper to cover. Once again, we're still surrounded by all the prints. Prints are everywhere. When people come into my studio, I want them to be consumed by it. Not overrun, but by consumed by it. So when they leave, they'll have one of them in their hands. The cardboard we use for shipping. We ship things all over the place. I've been able to sell paintings in many areas, some places around the world, and this is what we use. We make our own boxes and we ship them in there. My watercolor paper is on top. There's some older originals, and these are just drawers that I was told not to get into, so I'm not going to pull them open. All right, these, I'm going to talk a little bit about painting a day again. These are the painting a day pieces. These pieces are done daily, and they're usually inspired. They are inspired by our trips. We've been able to go. This one is from Ireland. It's an old table from Ireland. So when we go on trips, I don't really paint on trips. I keep a journal. I write my thoughts, my feelings, and my eyes are always open. I use my iPhone and take pictures. I take pictures of everything, and then when I come back, I review it with the journal, and then I'll start sketching and then paintings from that. First, with the painting a day pieces. Here's a piece from the Shaker Village again. You can see the old chair. And these are really neat in that I can do things that I might not normally commit to a big painting, but I can do them in a smaller version. This one is Lancaster County. This is from a bicycle ride. Often when I'm pounding down the road and maybe I'm trying to keep up a certain speed, not so much now as before, but I'll look up and I'll see things and it's just amazing. So I'll stop, I'll get my phone out of my back pocket and take a picture. You can do it literally, you can do it in 5 or 6 hours. You come home and voila, there it is, a painting. Here's more from Ireland. This one was from Ireland. You can see the rich green. Before we went, my wife got me, oh my gosh, probably 5 or 6 greens, because I was so overwhelmed at what I'd seen in the travel brochures about how much green was there. So I practiced with that. Now green's one of my favorite colors. I love using it. I love the value changes you can get in it, and I love using yellow and other colors as complements to it. So the green works really well for me, but you can see the mist and the haze. Ireland was just a transforming place. I love the people. I love the land, and I can't wait till things clear up and I can go back. It's a beautiful place. Behind you here is just what I used to use for subject matter. Photographs. Most of these photographs that are in here are subjects that I've, places we've been in, and subjects that I've taken, and things that I've painted. So they're all cataloged, water scenes, balloons. I used to paint hot air balloons. I used to chase hot air balloons to get them, and I would paint hot air balloons. I got to go up in a hot air balloon and did an aerial once. Animals, they're all what I use as subject matter. And truthfully, I don't think any artist can run out of subject matter. Especially a realist. It's all around you. You can take a corner of a building and make that into a subject if your composition is done well enough and if there's light in it. This is my drawing table. This is what I paint on, and here's a painting that I'm working on. Actually, it's a commission I'm working on right now. It's the front of a church. These are all hand drawn. I don't blow them up or anything. You can see the pencil lines. I love to draw. I've loved to draw since I was very, very young. It's been one of the things that helped me because I never studied watercolor, so the drawing held me in good stead as I was practicing and learning and finding out what you can do with watercolor. The drawing is the basis, the drawing is the foundation. So I had a good foundation in the beginning. I really think that as far as an artist, that God put that in, and I just had to keep practicing to get better and better and better. Behind the wall, behind my chair right there, is my favorite place is on my door. I was a track coach for Warwick Middle School for 20 years, and this is all the kids right there. It's also thank yous from kids that I would go in and do painting demonstrations. I've been almost into every school in Lancaster County, and I would do painting demonstrations. I would talk. What I wanted to do is actually get them excited about creating an art, whether they were going to be an artist or a musician or a dancer, but to give 110%, as my dad would once say, be 110%. And it was really neat to have the kids send me things. And a lot of times it would mimic what I did, but it was so creative and so beautiful, and they were always so honest about it. So I put those here, and I look back at where I've come in, and like this picture right here shows me. I used to teach summer enrichment, and those are all my kids in my class, and I would make them work. I mean, we would work from the time I started class, and at the end of the class we would have a big show, and we'd paste all these pictures they did, and there would literally be almost 100 pictures. They would work and work and work and work, and it was just so good. Around you here are also, this is probably the oldest painting that I have when Linda and I used to live in Lancaster, and that was at our apartment in Lancaster. And actually, I don't think I knew what I was doing there. That was a lucky one. I don't really believe in luck, but that was a gift. It just happened. The one here is a painting of my stool that I sit on, and that one's beautiful. I love that painting. I love the light. Once again, you see the little object there, the way the sunlight made. People think it looks like a cat. It's probably because I have 3 cats and I had to put them in. There's also, these are all my paintings. So that one's from the Shaker Village. This one is an Irish pig. When we were in Ireland, that's the pig that was behind fencing. He was huge, I can see why. And then this is a garden scene from a friend of ours who lives in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's funny how, as an artist, you remember almost, if not to the painting, every painting you painted. It's just amazing because you have such stock in it because you're so passionate about it. And as you go through putting in the lines and the color and the value and the texture, it just all flows. And then when you see it again, you can remember. Even if it's an old one you did when you weren't very good, you can still see yourself in it. And the maturation of painting is that as you start, each time you build on that building block, you get better and better and better with watercolor, which I think is one of the hardest mediums. You have to master it. And as you master it, you get better and better and better, and you add to that building block. And after a while, it flows right out of your pencil, out of your brush, and it becomes a joy to paint. It's not work. Okay, now I want to talk about influences in my most recent work. And my wife was wonderful enough to put these together. And here, I guess it's in chronological order, but this is my most recent work. This was a photograph taken by a friend of mine in Lancaster, but they liked the way the moon shined at night. And it was coming through over the tops of one of their neighbor's house, and she sent it to me. Well, I looked at it and I thought, I like the moon, but what can I do? How can I get the light to move around the painting and make it an interesting painting? So I sketched it first in my sketchbook, and there were 2 flags on the bottom. You just saw the very, 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 very tops of them. And I finished the flags out. And that brought the eye into the painting, moved it up here, you can see the window, and then out here through the moon, right through the trees. And that was the first one. I think that I did that one right after COVID hit. This is another one. This is a view, and I like using different views or putting the viewer somewhere different where he wouldn't normally you wouldn't normally think they would be. Not a straight on view, but you're up in the 2nd floor of a building looking down on another building off to the side, and you're almost at treetop level. The hard part about that composition was getting all the angles right. And I've always been very, very precise and very good at that. Sometimes it's just a detriment because, you know, you're working and working, you erase a lot. And when I first started, I thought erasing was, you failed. But I realize now that the eraser is my best friend. So I erase more, and then when I start painting, I don't have to worry about where I lay the paint. The neat part about this painting, and I thought as I finished it, is creating how the glass looks old. And, you know, like I said, I never studied, but I realized that to make the glass look old, you had to make the objects behind the glass wavy. So it's very old glass. This, my wife and I went on a cruise. It was a cruise she shouldn't have gone on because she had just had surgery and she wasn't ready. So when we got to Ocho Rios, I had to go out and do the tour. So I went out, took a rather dubious tour with a tour guide, which I shouldn't have taken, and went places I shouldn't have been, but I came back unscathed. And this is a scene from one of the parks he walked me through. Beautiful view of flora, just gorgeous colors. The light on the fencing, on the walk on the bottom. This is probably the prettiest place that I walked by. You can see a little evidence of the old houses behind and the palm trees. That was Ocho Rios, and that was on our cruise. I still love cruises because I love standing on a balcony and looking at the sea. It's so vast, it just makes you feel small. Okay, all right, this painting is a very interesting painting. Recently my wife got 7 sheets of watercolor, and she often does that because we've experimented with different paper and with different surfaces over the year. The one main theme that goes through my paper is that I like heavyweight paper. So this is a heavyweight 300-pound paper, and it's handmade, mold made, and man-made paper. So its weave is not so precise as when you lay on the water. It just lays on top, and then I can blend over top, or when it gets semi-dry I can blend into another color. It sort of sticks right in there and goes right in. So I had some trouble with laying this on and putting the sky and things in, but it was a scene that my daughter took when she was in Maine, and she loved it. She sent it to me, which she often does when she's on a trip, and I looked at it and asked her if I could paint it. She said sure, that'd be great. The thing is that I wanted to paint it and have the painting move her just like the original scene did. So I started drawing it, and this is a 25 by 20, it's a rather big painting, and I drew it, did the sky first and thought, oh wow, it's not going to be that hard, and then waited a couple weeks because I had a couple commissions to do. Then I started painting it, and I realized yes, it was. As I put some of the other things in, I was able to put the top color on, but the bottom color, it sort of ran into itself. So I had to be really, really careful with blending one color back into the other. I almost couldn't blend it as I could lay it on top. It would not actually blend, so I had to mix the color just right. So as I needed to finish the painting, I got the mist over top of here, which I was really, really proud of, and the reflection. I got that, I was happy with it. So then I sent it to my daughter on Instagram, and she looked at it, and she loved it. She said, oh, it's so beautiful, it makes me feel like I'm there. So I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted to do. And that's what I do in each painting. I want people to feel the same way about a piece as if it's theirs or if it's mine, and that it draws them in, and then they can live with it day to day to day, and they see something different in it each time they look at it. Because if they get bored with it, then it's just going to end up on some marketplace for $10, and I don't want that. I want it to be timeless and to be beautiful. This piece are blueberries, which you'd think a bowl of blueberries would be really, really easy, and you've been painting a while and all they are is blue, but there's so many different value changes with blue. There's a little bit of red in it, there's violet, or what people would call purple. So this piece was gleaned from a friend of mine who's a wonderful potter, and she took a watercolor class, so she has a good eye, and she took this. I guess it was in her house, and it's on a nice surface, and I saw it, and my wife and I saw it, and said, oh, we should ask Nancy if we can use it. And she said, yeah, by all means. So I'm sure she's waiting to see what I did with it, so the pressure's on again. But I love that there's so many in this flat surface piled on, and my job is to sort of create a relief, to build them up, to get the dark and light to work together, so they're coming out of the bowl, and it's starting to happen. That's the beauty of it, and it's really the beauty of it, to do that, to be able to do that. And I'm using my my iPhone because I downloaded it there just as reference to move around it. I put a few more blueberries in it that are actually in it, but that's what we do. It was getting ideas, and like I said, I never studied watercolor. Drawing was a gift, and I parlayed the gift of drawing, and then when we started, it was using a very limited palette and being able to control that limited palette across a small spectrum, a small page, and then larger and larger and larger. And frankly, I had some failures, a lot of failures. And as I worked on it more, as I was called to do more work, as I got more experience and got bolder and I was afraid of the white paper, it got better and better and better. But it's basically just practice. And it's basically an overlaying one layer over another. I'm not using it now, but I usually use a hair dryer. And the hair dryer dries each layer quickly because even though it seems that people think, oh, you have a world of patience. Yeah, I do. I'm more patient than the average person, but I don't have that much patience. And the hair dryer allows it to dry, and then I can get that overlapping or that transparency of color over top, and that's what creates the depth over top of the texture. It's practice. It's painting every day. It's going to work every day. My wife made me understand that is that painting was not just this ethereal thing that it just falls on the page and one day you have a good day and then the next day you're flat because who knows why. Well, she made me know that you refine and hone the skill and then you can use it when you want to. You can turn it on even if you don't feel like painting. You go to work. You just paint, and somewhere through it, and I am passionate about painting. My wife will tell you that I love it. This is not work. Who can sit in a room, by themselves with a TV or a cat looking at you or music going on and paint and then feel reasonably sure that if you do a good enough job that somebody's going to see it and they're going to want to buy it and hang it up on their walls and they're going to love it. I have people send me pictures of what their work hanging, and I have collectors who have, oh my gosh, sometimes I think they eat their work. But they have paintings all over their houses. They have committed their collection to me, and I'm blessed, and I'm honored that they do. But it's practice and taking the gift and taking the skill seriously. Well, I want to thank you for watching my video, for walking through my studio, and I know you're interested, and if you are, you can visit my website at andysmithartist.com, and on there you can see my blog, you can see all my small work, my big work, and my prints. And feel free to call us. Our phone number is there if you want to come and visit the studio. We're always open. We love people, and you're always welcome to come if we're here. We say by chance or by appointment. So thank you very much.